We're going to connect with Canada now after doing twice Greece.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Greece is big on war games.
Greece is big on war games. We're going to connect in Canada with Rob Crandall of On Target Simulations.
There. Okay. Now I'm
Here we
here.
go. Yes. Hello, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. So nice to see you both today.
Yeah,
You too,
it's
Rob.
great. It's great. Well, first of all, since last time we connected to your office, you get it tied up. Your background is much tidier than it was.
I just spent the last 20 minutes decluttering, yes. So I don't want everybody to know how a real development office looks.
Rob, how are things approaching release, right?
Yes, Southern Storm is just about ready to go out the door. So I'm just sitting here with my feet up on the desk, twiddling my thumbs because there's nothing to do. Maybe somebody will report a bug, but who knows? Yes, I've been busy.
So
the
Rob,
team has been very busy.
Rob, before we get into more details, just going back to, for anyone who is not familiar with Flashpoint campaigns and specifically Southern Storm, well, it's one of the most anticipated war games, I would say, ever. Considering the amount of feedback we're getting from the fans, set during Cold War and nations, U.S. and Soviet Union, and more. So, can you tell us, more about who is involved and what are the factions and the nations and the joint and what forces you control? All the basics.
The basics, sure. So this is a war game set in a hypothetical conflict between NATO and Warsaw Pact in 1989. It's in West Germany, as it then was. The games run about 4 to 14 hours in time. The maps are about 15 by 20 kilometers in size, although some are bigger. You're commanding a reinforced battalion up to a reinforced regiment or brigade with counters, the ones you see on the map, typically platoons or, for the Warsaw Pact, companies. And you maneuver around. The hexes are 500-meter hexes. And so it's a tactical game of up close, highly lethal modern combat. It's as high intensity as it gets. That's kind of the overview. The particular forces for Southern Storm, which we're looking at here, have 8 nations. They're the 4 from the old game. So the US, the Soviet Union, West Germany, and United Kingdom. And because we're in Bavaria now and in related areas, we add in Poland, Czechoslovakia, France, and Canada, because they were involved down there. So we have 8 nations. Unlike the last game, which came out 9 years ago, almost exactly 9 years ago, you could only have 1 nation per side. Now you can have multiple nations per side. And you as a commander show in it, and you have a nationality. Take it from there.
Yeah.
The game.
How about the scenarios and campaigns, and what are the units that we'll see in the game?
Typically platoons and companies, sometimes sections or individual flights of aircraft. If you've seen the previous game, it's quite similar in scope. Everything about it has been deepened and improved, but the scope is pretty much the same. A few things that are a little different this time around that are significant, though, is that we got away from magic engineers. It used to be, if you had to cross a river, and there are a lot of rivers on these maps, you drive a combat unit up to the riverbank and you'd snap your fingers, and half an hour later there'd be a bridge. We had the staff would provide a bridging element and get you across. That was a little unrealistic because a lot of that fighting really would center on river crossings and no water crossings. And so we have dedicated on-map bridging engineers now. And big hint, they're worth their weight in gold. If you have 4 rivers to cross and you lose one of your engineers, so you only have 3 now, you're in a world of trouble. Apart from these dedicated engineers, we have what we call off-map locations, because a lot of the artillery is quite long-ranged on both sides, and you can't really place them on a 15-kilometer by 20-kilometer map, realistically. So we say now, okay, we will put them in an off-map location. It's so many kilometers east and south, say, or north and west of where the center of the map is, and it then works out all the ranges. You can still do counter battery fire and things like that, but you don't actually have to have them on the map to participate in the game.
The game is structured in campaigns and battles, right? And what the structure of how these battles are linked to each other, and there's large battles, there's smaller skirmishes. How are the missions linked to each other, and how is time managed to link these campaigns and battles?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The game will ship with 22 standalone scenarios and 3 campaign games. And the campaign games are linked scenarios. And so you play out the game, and it'd be 4 to 8 hours, and you can end it up to a little early if you like. And that can matter because the way the games are scheduled in a campaign, you have travel time to the next map, which is a standard 4 hours. And then any extra time you have before that next scenario starts is used for rest and recovery. And so your units will fill in fallen out vehicles and platforms, possibly absorb some new replacements, and just recover a little rest and morale and a lot of ammo. And then the game starts. And you've moved your core force from the first game to the second game. And then you move them from the second to the third and the third to the fourth, as you might expect. But they get worn down. Like I said, this is a very lethal combat area. And you really need to spend a lot of time when you're playing campaign games not burning out your force. Replacements are few and far between, and you have a long time, like I'm 3 or 4 days of game time to make those things last. And creates all kinds of delicious command dilemmas, because you really have to think, do I really push and possibly have a Pyrrhic victory, or do I just acquiesce and say, yeah, I didn't clean up in this scenario, but I kept my force in being, and I've got 8 hours before the next one, and that's enough time for me to get up the strength and get back in the groove again. So there's a real tension, and if you might end, for example, a campaign scenario couple hours early, just so you can get that extra recovery time. And you might not have seized every victory point location or really chased down every last enemy unit, but your forces are that much better prepared for the next contest they're about to enter.
Well, so one thing that we were chatting with the team, and that is in continuous evolution is the combat system, compared to the earlier Flashpoint Campaigns games, Flashpoint games, and since Flashpoint Germany, and now what we have now, almost to the point where Flashpoint Campaigns is almost like the subtitle now, because it's morphed into something completely different in a way, right? How did the combat system change over time, and what you think you want to point out as being the biggest changes if you've applied to the combat system?
We've made a host of changes, and almost everything that worked we've taken apart and made it work better, deepening the modeling, and we've had new team members since the Red Storm days that have really gone to town and helped. So the spotting model used to be kind of black and white. It was you're spotted or you're not. And we thought thermal imaging gear was the greatest thing ever, and that was the only modifier really. Well, now we have a very detailed spotting model, and we have detection ranges and classification ranges and identification ranges, and we have different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that we're surveilling on, and we're comparing different contacts and how good they are, and really making a careful determination. The direct fire model had a lot of overkill in it, so that if you had 5 of your tanks shooting at 5 of theirs, all 5 of yours might shoot at the first tank they see and all kill the same one, in essence. And that happens in real life, but there's a lot of control measures to prevent it, and so we did something similar to distribute fire better. And our indirect fire was completely rewritten. So you'll see, instead of just a barrage hit a hex, you'll see individual volleys hex every couple of minutes. And you now get to select the munition types in far more detail. We have all kinds of different artillery and main tank gun munition types. And for the artillery ones, you can say, I want this particular smoke, and then I want this particular HE, and then mix in some ICM, something like that, a little later on, and really fine tune it and have far more detail. That said, one of our goals was to keep it flowing the way the old game did, and we didn't want to slow it down or bog it down. And so you'll see it really proceed pretty much the same or in a very similar way to the Red Storm, just with more plausible looking results, shall we say, higher fidelity results. And
that's a really
for those
good
who
point,
found
Rob, that you can add this detail and you can add this complexity, but if you're not improving the user interface and the feedback and keeping the whole flow right, you might add all this content and features and actually make the game a less enjoyable experience. So it's really important to focus on those things. And sometimes people don't realize how much work goes into that side of it rather than just, oh, look, we've got this cool new feature.
That is so true, Ian, because at the end of the day, we're trying to tell a story, and we can get in our own way by putting in too much. And in fact, with this version, I put in a set of controls that let you turn off a lot of the combat stuff. It happens, but it doesn't show it to you. And that's to help people who just want a quicker, more abstract experience and just get to the end. You know, I'll review it later and see where the losses were and who did what. Or other people who are doing something small, say, and really want to get all the detail, and they want it to go slowly enough that they can see what's happening and, you know, which of the weapons that seem to be doing the damage. So you can do that too. And before you couldn't customize it, now you can customize it extensively. Get the experience you want.
Well, talk about this improvements and making the game experience a better one. What do you think is the future of the Flashpoint series? I mean, it took you 9 years to get to the point where you're releasing Southern Storm. What do you think is the future of the series now?
Oh, we've done so much work improving the game engine. We really want to start doing a whole lot more content now. So staying in the Cold War, this is the southern end of the entire central front of NATO. Clearly we'll do a full-to-gap version and then a Northern Plains version. With the Northern Plains, we'll have Poland and Britain and Holland, Denmark in as well. So we'll have 12 nations, 3 games. There'll be DLCs, but it's all one engine. We'd really like to go further north into Norway, and we're open to possibilities elsewhere as well for the Cold War engine. Beyond that, we're really interested in the modern era for understandable reasons. And particularly things like drones. Drones changed everything, have changed everything. And so we really want to get modern equipment, modern force structures, modern situations, and set all that up. Oh, here's something new. When you're doing scenarios, you can change the electronic warfare levels per side per hour now. In the old game, it was just set once and that's it. So now you can coordinate your forces with the actual EW settings and air superiority that higher HQs have set up for you. And something else we're looking at right here on these screens is a whole new part of the scenario editor where you can create what we call battle plans. And battle plans in some games would be scripts telling the units what to do, but in this case, no, it's more a way to express the commander's intent. if you imagine a group of officers before the battle starts having an orders group and they're huddled around the map and the executive officer is sketching things out, it would look a bit like this. This is where they're agreeing, okay, you're going this way, we're going that way. You're moving groups of units, not individual units. And you're expressing your intent as a commander. But we all know what happens to plans when they meet the enemy. And similarly, these will suffer a similar fate. But it gets you going. These plans are made and they're saved independently of the scenarios. So that means if you've got, say, a brief moment in time and you come up with a really good new Warsaw Pact battle plan, you can share it with your friends. You can send it out, you can publish it, you can do all kinds of stuff and create like mini content. Not a full-blown scenario, but the smarts in them are severable and can be sent out. So we're really excited to see what people do with that.
It's interesting because
These are other shots
we were talking about with Hubert about how a game modder became a contributor to the series with DLCs and such. Do you see that happening as well with Flashpoint campaigns, where you actually ask for a contribution to the community, creating content and then sort of validating it and making it available to the public?
Oh yes, that's the most fun part. Everybody on the team that made this started in the Matrix forums, and there were modders and contributors, and they said, "Yeah, I want to be part of it," and the rest is history. And very much, you might recall with Red Storm, the final edition we called the Players Edition,
yeah,
just because it incorporated so many new ideas and features that were suggested in the forums, and it helps us also that the time period covered is one where people are still very much alive. If we were doing Napoleonics, not so much, but Cold War, we got a lot of people telling us, yeah, no, it went this way instead, and you might want to do it that way too. And
that's cool.
We've benefited enormously from that.
We're just weeks away, right? So it's the week before Thanksgiving we're releasing.
Yeah.
So that means a Gold Master, is it next week or week after?
Don't be nervous.
Well, I have November 7th as my drop dead date.
Okay.
And that gives you, everybody at your end, a bit of time to actually get the bits together and polish it up. But we're going to be working on this for years and years yet to come, clearly. And with Red Storm, we did something like 14 follow-up releases. And I expect this will be very similar too.
Oh, yeah. Don't go on holiday after release.
Yeah, that's when the work really starts.
I have such a good team, it doesn't matter. I could get hit by a bus and everything would be just fine. All
right. Well, Rob, thank you very much for joining us. I'm excited. I have to say that Flashpoint Campaigns released, I think it was around the same time as Command, right? We were not...
A month before.
Yeah, a month
October
before.
2013.
And these two games, are like almost, they went off into completely different directions, but in the end, they're sort of uniting under the umbrella of the pro work, under the umbrella of, evolution in, how the franchise went.
It's more true than you realize, I think, because on the pro side, DSTL have actually linked Flashpoint Campaigns and Command together. So you can play in Command and see the Flashpoint Campaign battlefield inside Command. They've created overlays and ways of integrating the two games together. So it is really interesting what's going on.
So it's exciting, really exciting to see that these two games are, after 9 years, are still a big thing, a big part of the wargaming community. So, thanks for sharing all this with us.
Okay. Yes, Command and Demetrius, I've met Demetrius several times now, and we got along like a house on fire. Yeah, Command pulled ahead. They got more updates out than we did, but we're going to pick up our socks now. We're going to get the cadence going a little faster.
I think it's a different type of game. Of course, Command is modern, and starting as Cold War, you've got to sort of you've got more room for the future, right? There's a lot of content that can come. There's nuclear weapons, there's chemical weapons, there's drones. There's so much to look forward to, and I'm really looking forward to it.
We're more excited than we've ever been, and I've been working on this for like 20 years now, if you go right back to the very beginning.
Yeah, that's great, Rob. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you for live stream. We have actually started live streaming Flashpoint Campaigns Southern Storm this week, so get on the Twitch schedule. We'll be happy to share the dates for the next live streams. I think someone from the team actually streamed or is going to stream Flashpoint Campaigns in the coming days. So it's all real now. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.